Sophia Alderson had begun writing down the content of her daily inspirations and visitations on a computer bought for her by Dr. Cunningham. The doctor had a photocopying machine installed in Sophia's room as well. It was one of those huge machines able to print over 100 pages a go. Edgar had remarked, when he saw the photocopier in action for the first time, from behind the one-way mirror, she could take over a small country with one of those. Dr. Cunningham exploded. "I don't care!" he shouted. Fortunately, the observation room was soundproofed. Sophia had to fold every single photocopied page she wanted to send to her followers into a paper airplane. Folding every page into a paper airplane was such a laborious process that pretty soon she was making paper airplanes while she prayed. On good days, she was able to make 55 an hour. Dr. Cunningham had timed her. Sophia Alderson would launch the paper planes one after the other out of the window as they were made without looking, still deep in prayer. Only about half made it as far as the gates and the waiting group of followers. Those paper planes that did get as far as the gates were fought over violently. Then they would be folded and read. As they read the paper planes, Sophia's followers would nod and say, "Told you so." I turned to the teleological proof of God. It went like this. The idea of God was such a sublime and majestic concept that it simply couldn't have come from anything less sublime and majestic than God himself. The proof seemed to rest precariously on a profound underestimation of the power of imagination. Surely it was at least possible that mortals could come to the notion of God by seeing themselves as finite, and then imagining what it would be like not to be limited in any sort of way. Once such a possibility was accepted, the proof collapsed. The Jerusalem metaphysical betting shop was finished in just 6 weeks. It was the largest metaphysical betting shop ever, with over 130 booths and a coffee shop. A healthcare centre and milk processing plant were also opened. Over 4,000 local women had applied to work at the betting shop, each filling out a questionnaire. Edgar Malroy chose the prettiest women who, when asked what they thought life was all about on their questionnaires, had written 2 silly words, namely, "Who knows?" or words to that effect. Anyone who wrote swear words on this part of the questionnaire were made managers. At the opening ceremony of the 3rd metaphysical betting shop were the leaders of the city's Jewish, Muslim, Orthodox and Catholic communities, the Mayor of Jerusalem and Israel's Minister for Religious Affairs. There were also representatives of the other religious faiths present in Jerusalem, which included the Anglican Church, the Lutheran Church, the Presbyterian Church, a number of Baptist churches, the Christian Science Church, the Mormon Church, and the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Literally hundreds of thousands of people crowded the plaza in front of the Wailing Wall and the metaphysical betting shop as the opening ceremony was completed. Edgar Malroy put on free food and refreshments. 10,000 kosher hamburgers and kebabs were handed out, and over 50 tons of oranges were freshly squeezed for the occasion. The Mayor of Jerusalem said, "This is just the sort of thing we like to see." The first bets the Jerusalem office took were made by the leaders of the various religious communities and were worth altogether $3.5 million. When these bets were made, 1,000 silver balloons with question marks printed on them were released from the roof of the betting shop, and the booths were open to the public. All day business at the 3rd metaphysical betting shop was brisk, as an estimated 200,000 Jews, Christians of various denominations, and Muslims queued up along the wall to place their bets. Many had spent the night by the Wailing Wall to ensure they would be among the first to place the bet. The police reported a total of 6 minor theological scuffles, and there were 2 cases of MBO. By 9 o'clock, all the young girls working at the metaphysical betting shop were half asleep. Attempts to close the betting shops for the night met with resistance, however, as thousands of nuts insisted on being allowed to continue placing bets. By 11 o'clock, the police were forced to disperse the crowd with tear gas and a water cannon, and the metaphysical betting shop staff were finally able to close it for the night. Everyone except Edgar went home. The steps of the metaphysical betting shop were strewn with the receipts of thousands and thousands of bets nuts had dropped when the area had been cleared by water cannon. They were like damp leaves. Edgar left his 3rd betting shop, got down on his hands and knees, and threw the receipts into the air. He had made more than £15 million in a little under 12 hours. In the morning, even more nuts than the day before gathered to place bets at the 3rd metaphysical betting shop. They had come from far and wide. That night, nuts yet again had to be cleared from the steps of the betting shop, money in hand, with water cannon so that the staff could sleep. This went on for 3 days and nights until Edgar got permission from the city council to open all night and began employing night staff.